Hi, I'm Joshua Ford. I'm a born and bred Galwegian and I'm extremely proud of that fact. I've lived in the city my entire life and never lived anywhere else. This city is known for being a beautiful tourist haven. Anyone who comes here just raves about it, and it is. It's a wonderful city of absolutely booming arts and culture, and I've nothing but good things to say about it. But as of recently, there's an extreme problem facing Galway today, as we speak, a problem that is here now. And I wish to bring that problem into the limelight and expose it for what it really is. From just a short distance from here, I'll take you on a journey that not many people of Galway really know is here.
My name is Liam O'Loughlin. I'm a drug and alcohol worker. I've been working in the field for over 20 years.
I'm Dr. Seamus Klein. I'm a GP in Galway City, in the Newcastle part of Galway City.
My name is Michael Mann. I'm head coach of the Olympic Boxing Club in Galway City.
Hi, my name is Helen Graney and I live here in Camelon Park in the west side area of Galway.
I'm Dervla Geraghty. I'm a freelance journalist for the Connacht Tribune.
Yeah, my name is Sarah Carroll.
My name is James. I'm 35 years of age.
People that do come down here are heroin addicts. That's all that's left of this place. That's all that's left of this little area. Literally over there, right over there, is a park where children and people walking their dogs just go about their daily business. And here we are, less than a minute away, where a drug den is located. There's nothing being done here, and it's ridiculous to think that this has been here since my childhood. I've been living in Nottingham for 12 years, and I've not seen anything done once with this place. It's been reported to cops many a time, but as I said, nothing, and it just continues to go on. It's the hidden truth. It's exactly what this place is.
In 1987-88, we had our first HIV positive patients in the city, and it just happened to be in my practice the very first case that was diagnosed in Galway.
When I was 17, I left home. I started taking crack first. Crack was my first drug.
I've been covering courts for about 12, 13 years, and in the last few years, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, I've noticed heroin coming up more in court cases and more prosecutions as a result of distributing heroin.
Yeah. It took about a year and a half. No one actually told me. I didn't realise. This fella said to me, look, this will help you to calm down off the crack cocaine. And what it was the heroin. And no one told me what the heroin would actually do to you.
I got involved in drugs and I went to prison. When I came out, it ruined my life. It's still ruining my life today.
Well, I'm living here 32 years and there was never anything like that, never. And we grew up the street here. There was loads of little boys, but they were involved in sports, and we always, so maybe that kept them. I think it's a lottery. You either take this road or you take that one, and a lot of them maybe took the wrong road, and it's very sad.
My mother sent me to America to a treatment centre, but I ended up worse over there. It came back worse.
If you have never taken heroin and you get heroin, the most critical thing is if you take too big a dose, it will stop your breathing, so it can kill you. The very first dose can kill you.
Only last week a friend of ours died over a heroin overdose and a methadone and tablet overdose as well.
Some parts of Galway City would be very similar to parts of London that I worked in. What you're going to find typically in any kind of like city is that you're going to find pockets of areas where drug use is more prevalent than other areas, and I think that's replicated not just in Galway but across the world really.
From what I've seen in court, cannabis is still the big one for the middle classes, and heroin is a major problem for lower classes, but that is changing. Definitely I'm seeing a change in the fact that heroin is much more easily available and that more young people are starting to take heroin and to get addicted to it, and indeed dying from it as well.
I know addiction is awful at any time, but this seems to be particularly bad. There's a lot of young people using it now, and we can see the paraphernalia of it around. There's lots of syringes and anything that goes with it. It's been found, and I worry about the young people growing up.
I saw a person injecting and he had an abscess in the back of his leg. The abscess was so big, we tried to pop it for him. 3 big pots, and the smell of it was like greeny brown gunge. The smell was disgusting. It filled 3 pots. and he never told anyone how bad it was, and he never sat down, and we always wondered why, and the next thing he was dead. I know a lot of people that died, so many people that died over heroin.
I've had a man in this office talking to me about being in a squat in London. I wakes up in the morning, the guy beside him in the squat is dead from heroin. He steps over him to go out to get his hit for the day. You get so dehumanized that the only thing you need is your next hit. So that's the cruel thing. So obviously then family, friends, all your normal structures that we have around us disappear.
There definitely is a increase in outside people bringing in drugs to Galway. There's a Lithuanian gang that I know of that are operating very much, certainly in Galway and other cities around the country. They bring in addicts from Lithuania. They tell them, we will give you a deal of heroin if you sell 4 of them.
And unfortunately, it's in our own community, Galway. Yeah. I know fellas that I knew as children, I'd been their doctor, who are now dead because of heroin. And that's the reality. That's the reality. So they're not obvious. They could be your next door neighbour. What is obvious, if you follow them around, that their life is basically about just finding the next hit, and not really about normal life, like going to the pictures.
I won't live another 2 years. Not from bleeding notion.
If you think about things that we might have in our lives, as in a career, a family, a stable house and stuff like that, they're all considered protective factors. Now, if I'm in a situation where if I lose all of that, then I have very little to lose in terms of engaging in risky behaviour, and that could be drug use, that could be all sorts of other risky behaviour. So the more things that we have to protect that protect us, the less likely we are to engage in problematic use or problematic behaviours of any kind.
The club was created, well, it was founded in 1965 under Chick Gillen. I suppose it was created to give young boys and young men something to do, keep them occupied and keep them motivated, keep them away from antisocial behaviour, and give them something to do with their time. If they have too much energy, this is somewhere for to go, use up that energy and use up their time, and basically keep them off the streets. We take boxers in from 6 years of age to right up to, I suppose, 35, 40 years of age, but we have different times, different classes. We don't differentiate in here, the boys and girls is welcome, from all those age groups, whether it be for competing or just wants to keep fit. Our door is always welcome. You come here, it's a place to go. We're in the heart of the community, so our doors are welcome to everybody.
One of the things that I would say, there's an old saying that we're only 2 or 3 pay packets away from being homeless. And I often think to myself, even with my own experience of working with homeless people, if I was made homeless in the morning, I wonder how long would it be before I'm problematically drinking or using. I mean, if you think about the difficulties in being homeless, actually living on the street, difficulties falling asleep, not being able to look after your hygiene, just basically not being seen as a relevant part of society would have a huge impact on my mental health. And so for that reason, potentially within a number of weeks, I could see myself being a problematic drinker or user and having a mental health issue as well. Sometimes people fall on hard times and they become homeless, and then as a coping mechanism to deal with the difficulties that they're in, they begin to engage in problematic drug and alcohol use.
I sold everything. All I had was a table and chair and my rabbit. I didn't care about anything after that.
With the heroin is they seem to have picked out areas that they've gone into, and they have really, it has a bigger social impact on the whole area. Whole streets and parts of towns can get really caught up in the thing, and cities, there's more violence.
My mother is distraught over everything that I've done, everything. Because she's seen guns put to my head, she's seen a man kick in my door, he was going to try and rape me.
Once you can get them into the system and begin to rehabilitate, it's a long and slow process.
Like the drug counsellors in my review could tell you, there's 200 people on heroin in Galway. I can honestly say from friends, from people I know, it's triple that.
I'm from Tipperary, but because I'm not from Galway, it took me a long time to actually get onto the methadone clinic here in Galway. So I was still using when I came here.
Fortunately, these guys are being caught, but they're being caught in huge numbers. And once they're gone to jail, someone else is just being brought in straight away. There seems to be a conveyor belt of dealers. Once one is gone, another one will come in and take his place. And they seem to be targeting areas of Galway that are frequented by young people, including the Spanish Arch and the city centre, which is a real worry. The fact that the borders are all open is certainly an issue. It is letting freer access to Ireland, but I think if it's not an issue that is only related to foreigners, that there are Galway people who are dealing, and there are Galway people who have been taking drugs for years and years. So it has been coming in from where, I don't know, but certainly the foreign influence is a new thing, and the foreign gangs is a new thing as well. One particular inquest that stands out for me is a middle class guy from good background, good family. He was dumped at the gates of the hospital on death's door. Nobody knows how he got there. And by the time he was brought into the hospital, he had died from a heroin overdose. And I just think of the tragedy for that family. You know, they're thinking, what should we have done differently? Where was he that night? Who was he with? Why did someone decide to treat him so poorly and so badly by dumping him at the gates of the hospital? I don't see the Galway communities acting up like the Dublin communities might have had to clear the streets of heroin users and heroin distributors. I don't see a community reacting like that. Not in Galway. Now that's not to say there isn't, but I don't know about it. And it's not something I come across in court anyway.
But any time I ask for help, it seems to be 4, 6, 8 months down the line. So 8 to 6 months down the line, what am I supposed to do for 8 to 6 months? Rob, steal, get what I can.
Possibly it is a fear of retaliation from gangs and, yeah, being blacklisted in your community or whatever, but I haven't personally come across it. I'm not aware of anyone that I know who takes heroin or is dealing heroin. That's not to say it doesn't happen.
Now, some of the addicts think the methadone program is just a slavery, another form of slavery, but it's much safer for them and much safer for society. They're not robbing banks and stabbing people and doing antisocial stuff.
From what I can see, they seem to be well informed and they are getting prosecutions. But maybe the laws aren't strong enough. Like in the district court, the maximum sentence you can ever get is 24 months. So unless a case goes forward to a higher court, like the circuit court, the most that someone is going to be in jail is 24 months. And that's not to say that they'll even serve that sentence. They actually will probably serve less because there's such overcrowding in the prisons. And they call it a revolving door, that people go in and they're out like the next day. So I don't think the justice system is strong enough. The guards are doing their best, they're doing what they can with what they have. But I don't think that the laws are strong enough to punish people that are spreading this drug.
Having to go to Divleys to get the meat and having to do ordinary shopping and all that kind of stuff, when you haven't done it for a couple of years, that there's a whole rebuilding of your normal life, you know, that you have to go through.
I'd recommend sport as a tool for ex-addicts. You know, again, not even for our own lads, you know, keep them motivated, but it would keep ex-addicts motivated and something to do.
The majority of people in the middle class, they are not affected by heroin. So why then are they going to change the laws? I think it doesn't affect the lawmakers so much, and that's why there hasn't been a change.
It's the best way to rehabilitate, but there's a bit of a risk in it for me and for my practice, that people say, oh, you know, here, that's full of addicts, you know, and they're dirty, and but they're not. They're you and me. They're next door neighbours. They're people who just, you know, need that help.
How would I deal with antisocial behaviour? You know, I'd discourage it. I'd have a chat with those boys if that was an issue with those lads. You know, if there was an issue outside of the boxing club, you know, I would deal with it, and you know, I would talk to those boys, and if needs be, you know, to be disciplined or they would be suspended, or you know, we've zero tolerance for antisocial behaviour.
I had my own hair salon, I had a house, I had everything, and it was gone. It's now gone. Everything is gone. I have nothing. Now I live in a homeless place.
Drug dealers, I hate them. I just hate them, yeah, because they're not your friend, you know. One of the first things I tell to every addict is, give me your phone. What are the phone numbers you're using to get your drugs? Wipe them, you know. If you're serious, you're going to have to wipe those, you know. You may have to move away from where you live, because these guys follow you around. They may know what chemist you go for your methadone, and they're waiting outside. You know, these guys are not on your side at all. They're not your friends.
Again, I think it would be a very individual thing. There's a lovely old saying as well, find something you like and do lots of it. Find something healthy to do, and that floats your boat. Another thing that typically might happen is that when, before people are using problematically, what they might have is a range of interests and hobbies and stuff, and they just become dormant. And to have a look at those, whether is it time to kind of dip your toe back in the water of some of those activities, or even to have a look at a bucket list. What are the things that you'd love to try and you never did? Aim big, but break it down into small steps. So we all have big hopes and dreams, and they're absolutely brilliant. But in order to make them achievable, we sometimes need a little bit of support. All of us do, in terms of being realistic, in terms of taking small steps towards that larger goal.
You know, someone here was or had been before, they would be suspended. But if they said that there weren't any more, if they were clean, you know, we need proof, and we need, you know, tests, and we need them tested from the doctor, because we couldn't have any of that in here, or any temptation, you know, to our boxers. And you know, if we boxers here on national squads and, you know, Irish teams and Boxing for Ireland, you know, they get tested as well by, you know, anti-doping and stuff like that. So it is a clean sport.
And the drug pushers are coming in behind there, and they're standing there as bold as brass in the middle of the day or whatever. But I'd like to see a lot more guards. I'd like to see the community guard walk the streets and walk around and get to know the people, because I couldn't tell you who our community guard is.
The drugs task forces came really from community mobilisation, where you had a group of people who were saying, right, enough is enough, this is our town, this is our area, we'd like to see more resources, we'd like to see something done about it. So I think, you know, the more people that actually are vocal in terms of their concerns, what their concerns are, the more likely, it's harder to ignore a lot of people who are all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were.
I think it would be very beneficial for young people in schools to see the effects of drugs, to see babies that have been born to addicts.
I think if you look at Galway City, for 75,000 people that live in Galway City, we are terribly under-resourced.
I think education is a very simple thing to do, particularly for people that are in school, to get them early, to show them what life could be like if they fall into this trap.
We'll do it with it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. We'll do it.
That's me.
We'll do
I
it.
can't say no more.
Yeah.
You're embarrassing me now.
No, we will do it, because we love each other. He's the first man that's ever treated me the way he treats me. Every other man has always either beaten me or put me back on drugs, and this man, we stop each other. We've gone down from, we stopped each other from smoking every day to once a week, and totally changed our lives. And it will go from once a week to nothing.
Very quick.
Yeah.